Suspense in a big corner. Okay, so this is my story. It's kind of creepy. So be prepared. Be prepared. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the
This is the least scary thing we've ever.
Okay. Anyways, so growing up in Jersey, there was this creepy girl.
Oh my god.
That goes by the name that I cannot say.
What was the point of saying that?
Crystal Martinez was raised on the south side of Newark, New Jersey. And
Newark,
growing up-
baby.
Just kidding, I'm not gonna put her stories out like that. But okay, but for real, like, this shit's creepy. So like, growing up, my father would always see like, I don't know if this music is doing it for me though.
Go with it.
Oh, it switched up.
Rain.
Rain stick.
So, okay, I'm gonna tell a goddamn story, you bitches. Sit up.
Once you throw it, it's all story. Okay, go ahead.
You look like a Hardy Boy.
We're just playing with the candle. It's just too much fun.
Wow, there's an orb on you.
So,
I swear it's on the film. It'll show up on the film if it's right on you.
Yep.
Oh,
It's a glare.
I think it's
From the candle.
it's a glare. Okay, yeah.
Go ahead, talk.
Okay, so I heard this story when I was a very young child, and I completely believe it because it was told to me by very legitimate people. So basically, actually I forget it. How's it go? Let me think.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay, so there was this family, and they lived in the woods. And you know, it's Kentucky, let's be real. Everybody lives far away from every other person unless you live in suburbia or downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So they lived in the outskirts where, you know, the nearest neighbor was probably like, you know, 100 yards that way or even further. And so they had a child who was about 8 years old, and then the rest of the family, or the other two people that lived there were the mom and dad, and they were older. And the dad used to always go hunting, and he would, you know, go on expeditions and stay in the woods and, you know, sleep in one of those little deer tent things or whatever. He'd sleep in a tree. So, of course, his son took after him and would always want to do, you know, go with his dad and go in the tree and, you know, stay the night and stuff. So one time they decided to, you know, do an overnight trek just like they had done 1,000 times before. So they go out and get all their stuff ready, and they go out, and it ended up being later than they had expected to go out. So they get out into the forest, and they get up into their little deer tent thing, and they just, you know, talk amongst themselves, like, you know, really do like the male bonding type thing, really, you know, talk about stuff. And so then as they're doing that, you know, they just start to fall asleep, and, you know, it just was like nothing. So they started to fall asleep, and then in the middle of the night, they were both woken up, and they heard like kind of this like shrill, but yet it didn't seem human-like, even though it was very shrill. It was more of like a demonic noise and like a if we want to do, I will like this. But it didn't say like this. It went like, it was more like this. And they didn't know if it was, you know, a person or what it was. And they got up and like looked around, and it's still like kind of light out, but not really. And so they like looked out, and all of a sudden the sun caught out of the corner of his eye like this red movement, and as he looked, it like disappeared. It was just like gone, and they heard some like scurrying, and completely freaked him out. I mean, obviously for good reason. Well, they ended up trying to stay up as long as they could, and the dad had his cell phone, and he just opened it up, because this is the 90s, so they had the flip ones. So he flipped it open and was just holding it there so they had some extra light. Besides, like their flashlight wasn't working, so they couldn't really do that, and they didn't want to scare anything else off. So they just used the cell phone for a little while, and eventually they calmed themselves back down, and the dad was like, "It's nothing, whatever." And they just fell back to sleep. So then, about a couple hours later, all of a sudden, they hear that noise again. Except it's like different. It's like, and it's just like more subtle. And the son wakes up and realizes that the dad's not there. And he's like, "What the hell? Where, did he have to pee? Like, what the hell?" Like, I know he gets up to go at home. Maybe he went to do it now. And so he looks out, and he sees a red light again. Except this time it's not moving. And he's like, "Is that Dad's little cell phone? Could be like the little blinking on the cell phone." And then he realizes, oh my God, there's 2 little red lights. And they're not that far away. And then he is frozen.
Sorry.
Completely frozen. Cannot move. And so he decides, oh my God, what the hell? This cannot be my dad, and I don't know where my dad is. So what does he do? He just yells out for his dad like any other kid would do. The red dots move, and then all of a sudden start moving closer, and it scares the shit out of him. So he's in a tree. He's halfway up a tree. He starts to go down the tree and completely falls down, like out of this thing.
White boy status.
Exactly. Gets up and starts charging as fast as he can out of the forest. As fast as he can. And he's tripping over shit, and all of a sudden, he can still hear that noise that he heard in the beginning. That... And he's getting freaked out because he's like, I have no idea where my dad is. And he's yelling for his dad. Screaming bloody murder. "Dad, where the fuck are you? Where the fuck are you, Dad? Dad!" And screaming it as loud as he can. And all of a sudden, he can still see those red dots getting closer. And even though he's running as fast as he can, it's catching up to him. And all of a sudden, he finally gets back to his house. Of course, it's the middle of the night, so he starts banging on his door, hoping that his mom will wake up. Well, nobody's coming. And as he is banging as hard as he can, he turns around to see that the red dots, or the red lights, are way closer than he had thought, and they're almost at his property. Granted, his property is a little bit further down, it doesn't matter. They're right there, and they're kind of pacing back and forth. Just going back and forth. Almost like a wolf would or something. And so he's continuing banging, yelling, screaming, crying his eyes out, wondering why his mom won't open the door. So then he has no other choice. He goes for the spare key, is fumbling to get it, and drops it, and then grabs it and picks it up. And as he goes to stick it in the door, he looks in the window, the mirror, and he can see behind him the red dots just darting up the yard. And so he's, as fast as he can, he's going in the door jam and pulls open the door and then slams it behind him and locks it as he hears a thud against the side of the house. But he doesn't see the red eyes anymore, or red lights. And he doesn't know what's going on. And he's screaming in his house as loud as he can for his mom. And she's not there.
Sarah's scared now.
He runs as fast as he can.
Not funny, Sean.
He runs as fast as he can into his parents' bedroom. And as the sheets are ruffled, his mom's not there. And he's screaming and yelling, "Where are you? Mom, Dad, where are you?" And nobody's answering him, and he's freaking out. So he runs back in the living room and is trying to flip on lights, and they're not coming on. So he's wondering what the fuck is going on. And then all of a sudden, he turns and it's a panoramic window in his living room, and he sees the eyes come around again, and they're sitting there, and there's a porch in front of it, so he knows that it's extremely close. And then all of a sudden, and he was never heard of again.